I've always had a fascination for the Adem, with their ancient swords that last millennia, their red leather-wearing mercenaries, and their man-mothers. It's a very interesting culture, and one that I haven't really touched on much in any of my Kingkiller videos. But as I was doing some research for my video on the Amyr, I came across some connections to the Adem that we need to talk about, so it's time for another theory video. Previously, I made a video going over the mysterious group known as the Amyr, one of the groups that's mentioned as an enemy to the Chandrian, and joining me as a guest host in that video was Quinn from Quinn's Ideas. Now, you may want to make sure to watch that video first, because some of the information I gave there is going to be relevant for this video. In that video, I mentioned how I didn't have time to talk about a theory connecting the Adem and the Amyr, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm also going to be looping in the Sithe, you know, like the Fey faction that guards the Cathay. They're going to be looping into this theory at some point as well. But before I get into it, I want to give a special shout out to Reddit user Quo, because it's his original theory that I'm kind of basing this whole video around. I added a bunch of stuff to it, but if you want to check out his original theory, I will have the post in the description. If you enjoy these Kingkiller theory videos, make sure to subscribe and leave a comment. Now let's get right into the theory. The Holy Order Amyr is a mysterious group believed to be founded by the Talon Church in the early days of the Aturan Empire. However, as we learn from Felurian, these Amyr are more like children dressing in their parents' clothes. The original Amyr were not human. In fact, their origin takes place in a time long before men or Fae, and we learn of this origin of the mythical Amyr from Scarpi. In the Name of the Wind, during the brief part of the second story that Scarpi tells before he's arrested for heresy, he says that at the end of the creation war, Aleph, the creator deity of Temerant, is looking for volunteers from the Ruach who would like to be transformed into angels and be sent off to judge. Celatos One-Eye is one of these Ruach, and the Ruach seem to be a race of beings that existed in the Four Corners long before humans or even Fae. Now, just a side note, Ruach is the Hebrew word for spirit, breath, or wind. Celatos refuses the offer and decides to instead form the Order Amyr so that he can confound the Chandrian. The Adem are most notably known to outsiders as an elite mercenary force that reside in Ademre, located in the geographically isolated foothills of the Stormwall Mountains, which means Ademre is not part of the Four Corners of civilization. And it's here that we learn from Vashette of a time long ago when the Adem were driven to their current location by something disastrous happening. Long ago, the Adem were upheaved from our rightful place. Something we cannot remember drove us out. Someone stole our land, or ruined it, or made us flee in fear. We were forced to wander endlessly, our whole nation mendicant, like beggars. Finally, we found this thin and windy place, unwanted by the world. We dug our roots deep into the stone and made it ours. Now, the only other time that we see this word mendicant, which means given to begging, is in chapter 48 of The Wise Man's Fear, when Willem is describing the Amyr, how they grew out of mendicant judges. Now, I find the word choice really interesting because it seems like a Rothfuss thing to do to hide a very subtle clue like this to connect these two groups. Now, Vashette says their land was stolen or destroyed. Could this have been the destruction of Myr Terinial and all the other cities that were ruined by Haliax and his followers, which we learned about from Scarpi? Well, later on, Sheehan confirms that the Adem originated from those who survived the Creation War and the destruction caused by the Rinta, also known as the Chandrian. Once there was a great realm peopled by great people. They were not Ademre. They were what Ademre was before we became ourselves. But at this time, they were themselves, the women and men, fair and strong. They sang songs of power and fought as well as Ademre do. These people had a great empire. The name of the empire is forgotten. It is not important, as the empire has fallen, and since that time the land has broken and the sky changed. In the Empire, there were 7 cities and 1 city. The names of the 7 cities are forgotten, for they are fallen to treachery and destroyed by time. The one city was destroyed as well, but its name remains. It was called Terinial. Let's pause here and point out the obvious that the city Terinial is what we know as Myr Terinial, the same city that Selatos was lord over. Now the Adem can trace their lineage through their swords back before the battle of Drossen Tor, and thus they predate the founding of the Amyr. Now Kvothe notes that he is his sword's 237th owner, and he learns that the third owner was a woman named Finnel, who died at the Black of Drossen Tor, meaning that Caesura is more than 2,000 years old and was forged before the Creation War. Its creator was named Chael, who shaped the sword in the fire for an unknown purpose. This seems to imply that its creator was one of the Shapers. The sword's creator, Chael, shaped it, and I don't think that wording is any coincidence. Kvothe describes the blade as being a smooth, burnished gray with a slightly extended handguard. Now, Kvothe doesn't know what metal the blade is made of, and Kilvin does not know of any metals with the same properties.
There are such things, old magics one could say, or old arts now lost to us. These things are scattered through the world, marvelous devices, mysteries.
The Shapers took the art of naming a step further to change that which they knew the true names of, creating many new and wondrous things. They created the stars, the Fey realm, so who, if not a Shaper, could create something so powerful? Now bear with me, but I think that Caesura, this gray, smooth sword, is made from a gray stone. The same stones that we see scattered all throughout Temerant. In Ademre, during his stone trial, Kvothe sees the greystone on top of the hill and describes it as a familiar friend. And we know the greystones may topple over, but they've been around probably longer than even the Aeturan Empire, maybe even longer than the Urgan Empire. I think it's possible that Caesura is shaped from a greystone, the same stones that are said to lead you in and out of the Fey realm, and that are said to be part of Ferinial, the great crossroads where all the roads in the world meet. Now, the fact that the Adem have swords tracing all the way back from before the Creation War means that they could be descendants of some of those remaining Ruach who joined Selatos and formed the Amyr. And this could mean that they're not actually human, but a watered-down race of Ruach. Or maybe that is what humans are in Temerant. Citizens of Ademre are described as being fair in complexion with light or pale skin and hair that ranges from sandy blonde to light brown. Typically, their eyes are gray, which adds sort of a universal air of impassiveness and severity. Now, all of these traits are recessive in nature, and this is something that Patrick Rothfuss himself confirmed in an interview, saying that he deliberately chose recessive traits for the people of Adem. So we know the Adem have a very tight-knit culture and likely have a very pure bloodline. The Adem believe themselves to be culturally superior to other people inhabiting the Four Corners, who they refer to as barbarians. Now, this is primarily because their beliefs regarding outward displays of emotion, something that in their culture is repressed. But perhaps they have more Ruach blood in them than other people in Temerant. I don't know, let me know what you think. Ademre is well known for producing powerful, talented fighters known as the Adem mercenaries, who can be recognized by their red leather garments. Now, the Sithe, the high-ranking members of the Amyr, were recognized by their bloody red tattoos. I think this is a detail that could have been twisted over time. With the rise of the Aeturan Empire and the Holy Order Amyr, the red of the mercenaries became the bloody hands of the Sithe, who were given exemption from the law to attain the greater good. Now, it is definitely worth mentioning that throughout the Chronicle, there has been a lot of Sithe imagery or foreshadowing revolving around Kvothe. Not only does Ari call him his Sithe, and Sim compares him to an Amyr, but there is many instances where he's described with having blood on his hands, and most notably during his trial in Ademre. As I walked, I raised my left hand and drew my open palm across the razor edge of a hanging leaf. I came to stand before Sheehan, stopping the polite distance from her. I stood, my face an impassive mask. I stood, utterly silent,
perfectly still. I extended my left hand, bloody palm up, and closed it into a fist. The gesture meant willing.
This same gesture, that of a bloody outstretched fist, is a symbol of the Sithe, one we've seen on Nina's painting of the pottery found at the Mothin farm. Now, speaking of this painting, Kvothe's first impression is that the Sithe has a symbol of a leaf on his chest. Now, it's only after that he realizes that it's a tower wrapped in flame and that this is an Amyr. I think his first glance could have been significant. This could be Rothfuss giving our subconscious a subtle connection between Adem and Amyr. The sword tree gets the name because of its sharp-edged leaves. The leaves of the sword tree and the Sithe Amyr seem to be sort of connected here. And again, this brings me back to the image of Kvothe cutting his hand on the sword tree to make this bloody fist gesture. Kvothe becoming an Amyr is foreshadowed so much, I don't think it's a coincidence in any way. And I think it's even possible that he already is becoming one of the Sithe. The Adem seek to live by the Lethani, basically an understanding of what is right and wrong, but it also rules over every aspect of life for an Adem. It can be said that this is the way to live properly, or to live with honor, and this sort of code of honor seems like it could have naturally evolved into the church knights of the Aturan Amyr, which we know eventually became corrupted by their vigilante lifestyle of justice at any cost, or for the greater good. So maybe the original Amyr lived by the Lethani, or they realized that their motto, for the greater good, could be abused, and so they created the Lethani. Now, the origin of the Lethani can be attributed to the legend of the 99 instructive tales, which Wraith told to Aeth. Don't know if I'm pronouncing those names right or not. Anyway, Aeth was the first master of the bow able to shoot a silk shred swinging by the wind, and this story basically chronicles the creation of the first Adem school. But I want to branch off from here and connect the Sithe to the Adem. Now, first off, I just want to point out that Rothfuss says the correct pronunciation for Sithe is actually Sith.
Can I pronounce Sith? Yes. By the way, I did not steal that from Star Wars. Star Wars, I was first.
But this is not Star Wars, and whenever I pronounce it that way in a video, I get several comments saying I'm pronouncing it wrong, and it's actually Sithe, despite Rothfuss saying otherwise. However, I prefer saying Sithe over Sith anyway, so I'm gonna stick with that. The Sithe is a faction of the Fey Court, also known as the White Riders, and the members of the Sithe are said to wear crowns woven of holly bows, silver armor, and white robes when they ride into battle and carry longhorn bows as weapons. If anyone manages to come in contact with the Cathay, the Sithe kill them. They kill them from a half-mile off with their longhorn bows. The Sithe's oldest and most important charge is to guard the Cathay, keeping anyone from having contact with the creature. The group is known to have hunted the Skin Dancers until they went extinct, and Bast mentions that you don't understand them if you use the term good intentions, but that if anyone can be said to work for the good, it's them. This sounds an awful lot like the Amyr and their motto, for the greater good. Now, Vashette gives her reason as to why the Adem fight. She says, we Adem are paid to guard, to hunt, and to protect. Just like how the Sithe guard the Cathay, hunt Skin Dancers, and protect the world from the Cathay's influence. Now, we know that the Sithe are excellent marksmen, and from a song we learn of their white horn bows. Now, in the Adem origin story, Aeth's bow was also made of horn. And to connect this even further, white is the color the heads of the Adem schools wear. Vashette and Sheehan explain how there's different Adem schools, and it's possible that the very first school, founded by Aeth, which is likely very, very old, works in the Fey realm, and the leaders of that school are what the Fey call the Sithe. The blood-red leather of the Adem pick up imagery of the Sithe, the highest of the Amyr. The highest of the Adem wear white like the Sithe in the White Riders' hunt. So the Sithe work for the good, guarding the Cathay tree and protecting the world from its influence, and hunting Skin Dancers. Felurian says there were never any human Amyr, and it's likely the Sithe are not human. The Sithe could be the origin of both the Sithe and the Adem. Now, to briefly branch off of this theory, the Adem and the Ademaru are likely related groups as well. Possibly the Ademaru branched off from the Adem and continued wandering, never finding refuge in Ademre, but instead made their own home on the road. And even now, they're still driven off by people and treated like beggars or thieves. Now, real quick, remember that Sheehan describes a time when they were not Ademre, when they were what Ademre was before they became themselves. They were people that sang songs of power. And you may remember who Haliax lists as the enemies of the Chandrian, the Amyr, the Singers, and the Sithe. What if he's talking about one group here and not three? After all, the Adem often give their titles in three. Maedra can mean the flame, the thunder, or the broken tree. Vachette introduces herself as the hammer, the clay, the spinning wheel. Tempi means iron, and it means to strike iron, and it means angry. I think it's possible Haliax is talking about one group. The Amyr, the Singers, and the Sithe are all one. In summary, the Amyr and the Adem seem to be very similar when we look at their origins. Maybe they're one and the same. We know the Adem trace their lineage all the way back to the time of the Creation War and the destruction of Mir Terinial, and we know due to some destruction or cataclysm, they were driven away from their original land. They seem almost pleased that Kvothe wants to hunt the Chandrian, and they have passed down the true names of the Chandrian for generations and generations. Almost like their original goal could have been vengeance, to confound the Chandrian. The mysterious leaders to the Adem schools wear white, and we can make some connections there with the White Riders, or the Sithe that guard the Cathay. Not only do the Sithe sound like the original Adem that founded the schools, they also share the same goals: to guard, to hunt, and to protect. And then of course there's the Ademaru that I think share some type of history with the Adem. It kind of reminds me of the Wheel of Time. I don't want to spoil anything for that series, but there's something very similar in that series. But what do you think about all of this? Let me know in the comments if you think this is a bit of a stretch, or if you think that some of this is possible. Let me know. Also, if you want to see more Kingkiller videos, make sure to subscribe, consider joining my Patreon, and I'll see you guys next time.